There are moments in your life when you've given so much of yourself to a woman, only to feel invisible in her world. Maybe you've been that man who stayed up late sending the long messages, who remembered every little detail she once mentioned, who showed up when no one else did. And yet, she still walked away. She still looked past you as if none of it mattered. That emptiness, it lingers. You wonder, do women even notice? Do they ever remember the man who gave his heart so honestly? If this is you, you know the ache. You replay moments in your mind, questioning yourself. Was I too much, not enough? Did she even care at all? And deep down, there's this quiet voice whispering, what if she never thinks of me again? But here's the truth. Women never forget certain men. Not the flashy ones who tried too hard. Not the ones who played games to get attention. They remember the men who carried themselves differently. Men who left an imprint so deep it couldn't be erased, no matter how much time has passed. Maybe this feels familiar. Years later, she'll stumble across your name, your face, your memory, and something in her chest will tighten. Because certain things you did, certain ways you carried yourself, those don't fade. They echo. They stay. So the question is, what are those things? What separates the man she easily forgets from the one she'll never, ever erase from her memory? Most men get this wrong because they think being unforgettable means overwhelming her with effort, texting nonstop, showering her with compliments, proving your worth at every turn. But the harder you try to be remembered, the faster you fade. Why? Because a man who operates from need instead of from grounded strength teaches her that his value depends on her response, and no woman ever clings to a man she feels she controls. Here's the truth. Women don't remember the man who gives her everything. She remembers the man who makes her feel something she can't find anywhere else. That doesn't come from chasing. That doesn't come from bending over backwards. It comes from living by principles that most men are too afraid to hold. One of those principles is restraint, the ability to say less, to give less, and to let silence work in your favor. Another is certainty, knowing who you are and what you stand for, regardless of whether she validates you or not. These are qualities that leave a mark because they are rare, and rarity creates memory. If you think back, the people who've stayed in your mind the longest weren't the loudest or the neediest. They were the ones who lived with quiet authority, who didn't need your approval, who carried themselves with a weight you couldn't ignore. That's the kind of man a woman never forgets. So if you've been trying to make yourself unforgettable by effort, understand this. Effort doesn't make you remembered. Essence does. The question you need to ask yourself is, are you living in a way that leaves her with a feeling she can't replace? She's sitting across from him in a crowded cafe, the sound of cups clinking, soft laughter in the background, the hum of a city alive outside the window, but none of that matters, because the air between them is heavy with something unspoken. He isn't trying to impress her. He isn't bending over backwards, searching for the perfect words. He just sits there, calm, steady, unshaken. She notices the way he listens, not rushing to fill the silence, not needing to prove himself. When he does speak, it's measured, certain, like every word has weight. He doesn't look at his phone. He doesn't glance around the room. His focus is on her, fully, and she feels it, a strange mix of comfort and pressure, like he sees more than she's used to showing. In her mind, she's trying to figure it out. Why does he feel different? Why does it seem like he knows something I don't? His presence lingers like a song that won't leave your head, and she realizes she doesn't want it to. Later that night, when she lies in bed scrolling through endless distractions, it isn't the cafe she remembers, or even the exact words he said. It's the feeling, the stillness, the way his calm energy exposed how restless she really was. And years from now, when life has moved on, when faces blur and conversations vanish into the background, she'll still recall that moment, that silence, that steadiness. Because some men, without trying, etch themselves into a woman's memory in a way that time can't erase. The question is, when she thinks back on you, will you be one of those men? A lot of men walk through life believing that women remember the ones who try the hardest, the ones who give endlessly, who prove over and over that they're loyal. But here's the hard truth. Being unforgettable isn't about how much you give. It's about how much of yourself you refuse to lose. False belief number one, if I do more, she'll value me more. In reality, the opposite is true. When you overextend, you stop being seen as rare. You become routine, and routine is forgettable. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. False belief number two, if I can just make her happy, she'll never leave. But women don't remember the man who sacrificed himself to please her. They remember the man who lived with purpose, who had a life beyond her, who showed her that his world had gravity. A man who orbits her life is forgotten. A man who makes her orbit his, etched forever. False belief number three, if she doesn't stay, it means I wasn't enough. No, it means she couldn't forget you, even as she walked away. Women never forget the men who stood firm, who carried themselves with certainty, who didn't let love make them lose their spine. Her memory doesn't hold the man who begged, it holds the man who walked away with dignity. You don't have to be louder, richer, or flashier to be unforgettable. You have to be rooted. You have to be the man who leaves a feeling she can't replace. And once you see this clearly, you realize being remembered was never about chasing her. It was about becoming someone you'd never forget yourself. The man most people forget is the one who blends in, who bends, who hopes that being agreeable will make him stand out. But the 1% headman, he operates from a completely different place. He understands that being unforgettable isn't about chasing attention. It's about embodying a presence that speaks without words. This is what he understands. You don't win a woman's memory by proving yourself. You win it by being yourself, fully, unapologetically. He knows that pressure comes from insecurity, but presence comes from alignment. When he walks into a room, he isn't trying to dominate it, he simply belongs there. His calm makes people lean in. His certainty makes silence louder than noise. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He doesn't try to force connection. He allows it. He doesn't need to hold on tight because he knows his value doesn't vanish if she walks away. That quiet confidence is what lingers in her heart long after words and moments fade. Where most men confuse being unforgettable with being relentless, he sees the deeper truth. Memory is tied to impact, and impact comes from essence. The 1% headman shapes his life with purpose, with boundaries, with values that do not bend for approval. And because of that, when a woman crosses his path, she feels something different, an anchor in a world of drifting men. He doesn't need to be remembered by everyone. He knows that isn't power. Power is being unforgettable to the right people because of the way you carry yourself. And that's the shift. Stop trying to make her remember you, and start becoming the kind of man who couldn't be forgotten if she tried. There comes a moment when the mirror stares back at you differently. You're not just seeing your reflection, you're seeing years of trying, bending, proving, all the ways you thought love was earned by giving more than you had, and suddenly it hits you. You were never forgotten because you weren't enough. You were forgotten because you forgot yourself first. It's like a weight lifts, but also a sting burns deep. You remember the nights you stayed awake, waiting for her reply, measuring your worth in dots that never turned into words. You remember the times you showed up, hoping presence alone would make you matter. And now you see it clearly. Your silence, your strength, your boundaries would have spoken louder than all your efforts combined. In this instant, something shifts. You realize she isn't the one who decides if you're unforgettable. You do. The men who linger in a woman's memory aren't the ones who beg for space in her life. They're the ones who occupy their own space so fully she can't help but feel it even when he's gone. And for the first time, you stop waiting for her to remember you. You start remembering yourself, the man you were before you dimmed your light, before you gave it all away just to be seen. That's the turning point, when you realize being unforgettable isn't about her memory at all. It's about reclaiming your own. So maybe now you see it. She doesn't remember the man who tried the hardest, or the one who begged for her attention. She remembers the man who left an imprint on her soul, because his presence was rooted, his energy unshakable, his essence undeniable. The man who didn't lose himself in the chase, but stood tall in who he was. Every glance, every word, every silence, those things became echoes that outlived the moment. That's why some men fade the second they leave, while others live on in her memory years later. And the difference isn't effort, it's essence. You don't have to wonder anymore what makes a man unforgettable. It's not what you give her, it's not what you sacrifice, it's what you refuse to abandon within yourself, because in the end, a woman never forgets a man who never forgot himself.